This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
This is a new Yeti ASR, a featherweight XC race bike designed to fly up the climbs and smash down the trails. It's fast, it's sleek, it's good looking, and surprisingly versatile for an everyday trail bike. But is it worth buying, and does it live up to the Yeti legacy? Well, in this video, I'm going to review it. I'll share how it rides when it comes to climbing, descending, talk about suspension performance, some likes and dislikes, and give my verdict at the end of the video. So let's dive in. Let's talk about the design and the key features on this Yeti ASR. And of course, it's a full carbon fiber frame and swing arm to keep the weight as low as possible, and really minimal underside tube profiles, very slender, looks really nice. I do like the straight top tube and a straight seat tube as well for maximum drop of seat post insertion. And where Yeti have been using a switch infinity on their bikes, which is a very complex but cool suspension design, this bike, to save weight, they've moved to a single pivot just there with flex carbon stays along the chain stays, like is common on most other XC race bikes, and they really have converged on a very similar sort of frame shape and suspension design, which is no bad thing, because this is what works. Keeps the weight down, you get suspension performance that's impressive for the amount that you have, and it's fast. So 115 from the rear shock, so less than a 120 of a Specialized or Scott Spark, matched to a 120 fork up there. And it's light on the scales as well. A claimed frame weight with no shock of just over 1,500 grams, and with a shock fitted, just over 1,800 grams, which compares well to other bikes in this category. Not the lightest, but definitely one of the lighter bikes in this space of a lightweight XC race bike. And despite that focus on weight, we have some sensible details, like impact protection on the down tube and the chainstays, and a small mud flap to stop mud getting behind the main pivot there, and space for 2.4 inch tyres on 30mm wide rims, so very modern in that regard. And then, while there's a bit of a trend towards internal routing and cables through the headset like on a scalpel, this one we have fairly conventional regular routing through the head tube and a normal two-piece handlebar and stem, so you're free to swap the handlebar and stem as you want. But then sizing and geometry, there are 5 sizes, and this is a size large, and it does fit my 181 centimeter height well, but the reach is 465, which is definitely better than XC race bikes of yesteryear, but a good 10mm shorter than other bikes in this category, like the Specialized Epic or a Cannondale Scalpel and other bikes I've been riding. And my preference on reach is 475 or 480. So while the reach is longer and it's definitely a move in the right direction, it still feels a bit small for a size large, and definitely feels more like a medium or a medium large. So for me, I would prefer a bit more length in the reach personally. But we do have a nice slack head angle, 66.5, which is fairly common. So nice handling from that, and a fairly steep, but not too steep, seat angle of just over 76 degrees. So a nice combination of numbers, just like reach is a bit short, but let me know your thoughts on that by dropping a comment down below. When it comes to price, Yeti bikes have always had a premium, shall we say, which is a polite way of saying expensive. But they do have a fairly broad range of options built around 2 carbon frames. There's no alloy option, sadly. But the pricing starts from $5,600, which isn't crazy bad, all the way up to $14,000 if you have deep pockets, all the latest equipment and electronic suspension control and all that sort of jazz. This one sits in the middle, sort of middle to upper end. They call it T3 with a T3 XO Transmission group set, and costs £8,400 or $8,600. And that compares well on paper to a Specialized Epic or a Cannondale Scalpel, which I reviewed a few weeks ago. But while the group set and the suspension and handlebar and seat post are all par for the course for a bike costing over 8,000 quid, we don't have on this bike carbon wheels. These are alloy wheels, which are fine, but the Specialized and the Cannondale both offer carbon wheels, which means the wheels are about 500 grams lighter. So at this price point, I think you should and can expect carbon wheels for the carbon bling and the weight saving they offer. So not to have carbon wheels at this price point does really stand out as a bad detail on a Yeti when you are talking about value for money compared to what you can get for £8,000.
This video is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it dead easy to build a brand new website for any purpose in 2025. If you need a new website for your online cycling business to manage easy payments, or you want to start a personal website and share your cycling stories and adventures or photos, with Squarespace it couldn't be easier. You can set one up really quick with a huge array of templates to choose from and then customize the layout and add plugins as you need with the easy drag and drop interface, or even use AI to put your website together based on answering a few simple questions. And even better, you can try it before you buy with a free trial, and if you enjoy it, then 10% of your first purchase of a website or domain with my special code on screen right now and linked down below.
Right, a quick word on the suspension setup before we hit the trail, because Yeti recommends 30% sag in the rear shock, which is quite a bit more than the usual 25% for an XC race bike. And for me, after some trial and error, that's about 185, 190 psi in the rear shock, matched with 75 in the SID up front. And my concerns when I started riding the bike with that much sag is that it would be wallowy and soggy when climbing and pedaling. Of course, we have the three-way adjustment, which helps alleviate that a bit. But even in fully open mode, it doesn't bounce around, not going through a travel too easily. It's still fairly composed, and what it does give is amazing comfort. It's very supple suspension, very eager to work on small bumps, and gives a nice smooth ride on a long distance trail ride or a marathon. And when you are climbing, you have loads of traction over roots and rocks to help you scrabble up those techie climbs. So let's hit the trail. I'm nice and warmed up, do some climbing and descending, and see how the bike performs. And happily, the bike climbs extremely well. It's lightweight, nice efficient suspension. It climbs like a stabbed rat. Really excellent indeed. Riding this Yeti ASR is another reminder just how good modern mountain bikes are, especially these short travel race bikes. Yeah, designed for racing, but my goodness me, is it quick in a trail bike setting like this. Of course, XC World Cup courses are pretty rowdy these days, so this is sort of what you might expect on a XC race course. And it shows how good modern technology is, the suspension components and the geometry. And while the bike is longer and slacker than anything from 5, 10, 15 years ago, it's lost no speed at all. If anything, it's faster because the bike is so much better on the rough stuff. Our trails have progressed. What the hell is this? The RockShox SID, such a good fork. Does seem to bind up a bit more repeated step down hits compared to the lefty on that scalpel, but a very nice solid fork. Whoa. Oh yes, camera lens wasn't covered in mud. Now let me share some equipment highlights. Firstly, the RockShox SID, well, it's a fantastic fork. Easy to set up, amazing performance, supple, handles big hits really well, a good bit of kit, and pairs really well with the SID rear shock with that three-way adjustment for lockout, compression, and fully open. Next up, the Recon Race and Recon tyres. Super fast rolling, low rolling resistance, no drag when you're smashing along hard packed trails, and surprisingly grippy when you really lean on that front tyre into corners. Next up, the Race Face handlebar, nice carbon fibre affair. Don't really feel the need for an oversized 35mm diameter though, and it's also a bit narrow, 740, fine for racing, but I would prefer 750 or 760 just for a bit more trail kind of capability. Nice stem, and it's a 15mm length as well, which is perfectly matched for the geometry on this bike. Hello Yi, you want to be in camera? Hello, oh, aren't you lovely? The Fox Transfer SL dropper seat post works like a dream, up and down very quickly indeed, but it's a 2-position adjustment. It's either up or down, which is great for racing, but I would prefer the option to adjust it anywhere in between. And when you're racing, you don't really need a 150mm drop. You want sort of 75 or 100. And dropping the seat post into a rocky descent, you do have to fully squat on the bike to drop the seat post, which is quite extreme from the full mast, as I have the saddle quite high for my height. So either a regular seat post, not as light, but one with more infinite adjustment, or a shorter dropper post would be my preference for this bike. Next up, the SRAM XO Transmission Eagle group set. It's expensive, yes, I know, but it works like a dream. Precise, crisp shifting every time you press a button, it doesn't miss a beat. And the benefit of that big chunky rear derailleur in the way it mounts to the frame directly is if you smash into rocks and trees, as I have done a few times, there's no mech hanging to bend and it still works as it should do. Okay, time for my verdict on a Yeti ASR. Now, whether you're racing or you just want a fast, light, efficient trail bike, the Yeti ASR performed brilliantly. However, there are a few gripes. At this price, you should get carbon wheels, which rival bike companies do offer at this price point. It's a lot of money, so it should be perfect, and it almost is. And the other big concern for me is the geometry. While the head angle, seat angle are fine, the reach is a bit short, about 10mm shorter than it should be for a size large compared to other bikes in this space. So all that aside, it's definitely a bike to consider if you're in the market for a new race bike or a light trail bike in 2025, but I don't think it's quite where it should be compared to the very good competition right now. But let me know what you think by dropping a comment down below. Anyway, I'm off for one last spin before it goes back and while it's still dry and not raining. And make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that button down below. And if you want to see more mountain bike content here on Just Ride Bikes in 2025, we've got plans for lots more, then hit that button down below. I'll see you all again very soon.